Where I come from, you can't eat antlers, so let's go.
Smoked them. The perfect knife for cutting your underwear.
Oh, you might have to take a beer run while we're out hunting.
Did y'all see that? I hope y'all saw that, because that's what they look like.
I've been longing to see her when she's around. She do.
Mama Maria.
Bro, I've been on a huge Hawaiian punch kick.
Is that what you're sipping right now?
Yeah, dude.
Well, good on you. You know,
It ages like fine wine. It's been in my fridge since Thanksgiving. Pretty good.
might need to cut it with some water though. Get a little
Some
diabetic drinking that stuff.
some Tito's water.
Shit, boy. Hey, man. Sorry I had to cut you off on your Alabama trip, but once we reach an hour, it's kind of like I know there's more to this story here, if not almost another 45 minutes to an hour left in her. So I figure run her into a part two. So recap. Hold on. Let me see if this will work here. I'm not seeing it. Okay, cool. Awesome. I'm doing the peace signs, the double deuces, no balloons, no confetti. Don't know what the hell happened. I didn't edit anything. This is just, it's not happening. All right, cool. We're good. So, recapping what happened here. So you, Blake, Carl, and Maurice go topside to Alabama for the rut.
Mm-hmm.
Carl sees a lot of deer leading up to y'all's trip to the point where his camera dies. He's seeing daylight and bucks. He's seeing bucks all the time. He actually becomes the only person seeing a deer a sit. And early on in y'all's trip, he ends up connecting and getting a buck down.
Correct.
Y'all start changing your tactics from look at these pretty woods to let's just actually find where deer are moving through. And you do that utilizing the road and looking at old places you have been, seeing deer cross and run around. Maurice sets up. Everyone's setting up in a horseshoe shape around this road. Maurice sets up, and wouldn't you know it, shoots a nice 8-point. Dies right under the stand. We're cheering. Now it's up to you and Blake to finally make things happen. The two guys that ain't seen nothing the whole trip. Time to start seeing some big bucks and start putting big bucks down. Did I get that?
And the suspenseful part is we have one sit left.
Oh God, you didn't tell me it was just a one sitter left. You gotta hate a one sit left, man, because one sit left, that's where when we were kids, you used to get the green light. Like you're like, fuck it, dude. Whatever shows up, I'm gonna get.
Yeah, so
Whatever it is.
basically we're on let's see, we hunted Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So we're on like day 5.5, and we are on our last sit. And me and Blake haven't seen a deer from from the tree stand yet. I did see a spike, but something spooked him, and he ran by me going about 100 mile an hour. So if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have seen shit. So yeah, we're going into one more sit, and it's kind of like, why even do this? Like, I don't. I'm gassed at this point. I've been sitting and feel like between 9 and 15 degrees, and the wind's been blowing. Today was actually 74 degrees, and like we're like, hey, I'm just over it at this point. My hunting season's done in my mind, but I'm gonna give it one more sit. I'm here, might as well sit. Blake done gathered up all of our cameras and stuff that afternoon, so I wasn't worried about none of having to go deal with anything other than just getting a tree. Um, yeah, so we'll pick up right there. So the night prior, Maurice had killed that buck, and when we walked up on that deer, it was laying on its right side, so I could see the left side of its head, and that's the side that I had glassed that buck that morning from the road, and it was actually the same deer. So
Perfect.
but the deer we'd seen the day before that was significantly bigger than that. So I seen that deer running away, and he was 14 to 16 inches wide. And this deer he killed was only 11 3/4 inches wide. So there, there's another buck in the area, and the fact we had seen 3 different deer cross right here during the afternoon hours is telling me there's something going on in here. And when we had walked that ridge, there was just scrapes, open timber scrapes everywhere. And so we're honing in on this, and I had told Blake, I said, you need to go around basically the same creek bottom that I'm going to be hunting. He's just going to go loop around the back side of it and hunt 400 or 500 yards down the creek from me. And then Maurice and Carl are kind of up on the ridge. So we're me and Blake are down in the creek bottom, and Maurice and Carl are just hunting straight up the ridge from like Maurice is hunting up the ridge from me about 280 yards, and Carl's hunting up the ridge from Blake 300 yards. So it's like a gauntlet. If there's anything coming from that road down to that creek, or from that creek up to that road, there's a good chance one of us are going to see it. And really nobody's cutting each other off because nobody has seen the same deer that the other person has seen yet. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of land in here and a lot of ways for these deer to go, and this story that I'm about to tell you justifies that. Being that it's the last day, usually towards the end of my hunting trips, my last tactic, like my last all in, my Hail Mary, however you want to angle it or put it, I try to sit in a stand as long as I can, right? So I had sat till 11:30 that morning, almost noon. I got down. We did one lap around the place just to kind of stretch my feet and get my mind off things for a minute. Ate a sandwich, drank a bottle of water, and then we drove all the way down this road to the very bottom. We had dead ends into the creek, and me and Blake are sitting there, and Blake's wanting to go to town, and I'm just sitting there like, dude, it's the last evening, and I have 2 options at this point. I can go left or right, and left is basically just creek bottom. They're thick creek bottom and mature pines. Right is like a hardwoods, thick hardwoods, like bow hunting type area with a bunch of magnolias, thick creek bottom. And I'm sitting there and I'm like tangled in between doing what I think I need to do and doing what I think I want to do. I'm like, Nate, what's your gut telling you? My gut's telling me to go where I told Blake to go that morning. So that's what I did. I told Blake, I said, you can go to town if you want. I'm going to get in a stand. And it's creeping up on 2:00 at this point.
Yeah. Prime rut time.
So yeah, so I throw all my shit out of the truck, and Blake's like, yeah, I'm just gonna go sit too. So Carl and Maurice were gathering cameras at this time, so they were going to be in about an hour or 2 later than we were. So I get out of the truck, Blake drives around, and I'm just barely creeping through the woods. So it looks like that it had just flooded here, and like all the leaves were pushed up, like mounted up against the bottoms of these trees. There's a lot of quiet type ground you can walk in. So like all these little washouts and stuff. You might be loud for 4 or 5 steps, but then you could hit like what looks to be a creek bed, and you can walk quiet for 50 to 60 yards. So that's what I would do. I would kind of pick my draws where I could walk with it being pretty quiet. And I'm getting closer to my destination. The tree I actually wanted to go to was probably 200 yards away, right? And I get up on this. So to paint the picture, you have big, huge, mature pines up on top of the hill, turns into hardwoods, and then you have like a creek, and then in between the 2 creeks, and by creeks, they're not really like flowing creeks. These are just ditches where water runs down to the main creek, but we're going to call them creeks or ditches. So you have a ditch, and then you have like I call it a runway. So the distance between this ditch and this ditch is probably 100 yards, 80 to 100 yards. And it's pretty well thick on the edges of both of them. So you have thick, and it's just like a runway. And then the hill in between them is pretty flat. And then it kind of just like as flat as it plateaus, but it kind of angles uphill to the pines where and Maurice is at the top of this runway at the Pines, and he's 260, 270 yards away. So these deer can still get by us. And as soon as I'm walking the right ditch up because I'm still about 80 to 100 yards now at this point to where I wanted to be. But I was like, man, if I get there, then I'm within 160 to 180 yards of Maurice. I'm trying to stay as far away from his as I can. And I crest this runway and instantly see a scrape that looks like a community scrape in the middle of hardwoods. There's no reason for it to be there other than that the deer are just in this area. And I'm looking around, I'm like, is there any more? Boom, there's one over there. And I go to that one, I'm looking, I'm like, this is fresh as shit. Like I could smell the deer musk. And I'm looking around, boom, there's another one, boom, there's another one, boom, there's another one, boom, there's another. I'm like, okay, yep, I've seen enough. So I checked my wind and I'm like, we had a west wind that morning or that evening. So I got on the I guess let's see, if we had a west wind, I wanted to be on the east side of it, so I did that. I got set up. I can only see, like, I could shoot with my bow probably 30, 35 yards around me, but there was some shoot lanes where I could see 60, 70. And so I sit down and I'm still kind of getting everything ready. Like, man, last sit, I'm in. This is the only thing I haven't done. I've sat in pretty woods, I've sat in transitions, I've sat pines, and now I'm sitting like a bow area.
Mm-hmm.
But the only difference is instead of hunting a transitional scrape line, I'm hunting open timber scrapes. So that's where I think this whole story breaks out here. So I got to stand, I think it was 220 or so, 225. And at 240, I hear what sounds like a buck chasing a doe. I've been doing this a long time, and this is just what it is. And coming from where Maurice would be sitting, between the two ditches, like I figured. So I'm sitting on one ditch, and I can see through brush the other ditch. So anything that comes down that runway I'm talking about, or the gauntlet or whatever, I can shoot. So they're coming right down the center of it, right through them scrapes. And it's a doe. She's got her head down, and she's fucking getting after it. And then right behind her, I'm talking about like 2 foot behind her, there's a deer running, and I'm like, oh, there it is. It's a buck chasing doe, and I'm scoping. I'm like it's coming through some thick stuff, and boom, they come out open, and it's a spike horn. And anybody that listens to this podcast, I'm over spikes. Like,
yeah, Nate's over spikes.
I've seen so many spikes chasing does this year. It is unbelievable, more than I've ever seen. So I'm like, damn it, man, I can't get away from a spike horn. Like, that's all I see.
It almost makes me think that the daytime's the only time these younger bucks can do it.
Right.
I
don't know. But they get out of sight, and I'm like, well, there's a hot doe here. That's pretty cool. And as soon as I said that, I heard another deer coming down the hill. And this one wasn't as like giddy up as that one. This one was just, you could tell it was just doosh, doosh, doosh. Like it was, you could tell it was a bigger deer.
It was yelling douche. Yeah, it's a son of a gun. Douche, douche. I'm like, damn. He hates spikes too.
That was supposed to be the sound of like brush or leaves.
Understand.
Either way, it fits the script. And I see the deer is huge deer. I'm talking huge fucking deer, like one of the biggest deer I've ever seen. And he steps out, and I see his right side, and I'm like, oh shit, he's a good buck. And he's running, and I'm, the famous man. So I'm, man. I did it 5 or 6 times. Finally, he hits the brakes, and when he hits the brakes, all I can see is his ass, and I put the crosshairs right there on his hands, and I'm like, oh, should I do it? Should I do it? Because I know if I shoot him in the ass with this 30-06, I'm going to get another shot at him. But I was like, nah, and I put it in front of the tree. I said, as soon as I see shoulder, I'm shooting. And he bounded. And as soon as his front paws hit the ground, my crosshairs was on his shoulder. His front legs came out from underneath him. He fell to his brisket, and he was just wheeling downhill like a choo-choo train, just basically on his face. And he did it for about 20 yards and and fell, and I'm sitting there and I'm just like, holy shit, I've only been in the stand 20 minutes and this all just unraveled really fast. And I'm just like shaking. I'm like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. People are calling, texting, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, I can't even pull my phone out at this point. I'm just shaking. I look up and the deer's like standing there trying to run off. And I'm like, oh shit, it's not over. So where he was at, I'm trying to find him sitting on the gun rail. I couldn't see him. And I bent down like kind of even with my gun rail and was like looking down. I could see him. So I sat on my foot platform and dropped my top platform down where instead of sitting in my seat and using the gun rail, I'm sitting on the foot platform and using my gun rail.
MacGyver
And
did.
I'm sitting there, and all I could at this point, he like bedded down, and he's looking directly away from me, and all I could see was from his ears up, so I could just see his head facing away from me, and he's looking like, and he's moving his ears around, and I'm like, if you stand back up, son of a bitch, I'm gonna get you again. So I'm sitting there just one-handed on my rifle, just like it's calm, collective. It's all business at this point. I lost my shakes. I'm like, all right, bitch, don't fucking move again, or you're gonna get another one. And I'm just watching, and and directly his horns just started slowly dropping to the ground, like, and then they just boom, hit the ground. And at that point, I was like, okay, he's Dunzo,
man.
So I stood up, and now I'm shaking again, and I get my climber set back right, and you're only allowed one buck per day out here, and I'm like, shit, what do I do? You know, it's so early, like, so I'm sitting there, and I text Blake. Blake's like, get him. I'm like, yeah. I texted Maurice and Carl weren't even out of the trucks yet to even go to the stand. So I was so Blake texted us in the group chat. He's like, did you get it? And I was like, yeah, he's down. And then Carl and Maurice are like, wait, you shot? And I'm like, yep. And they're like, what is it? I'm like, I don't know. He's a pretty heavy deer. I don't know what it is yet at this point. I mean, I couldn't tell. I know he had like 3 or 4 on one side, but he was a heavy set deer. I couldn't tell what he was. So I'm just sitting there like, all right, what's my next move? And now, once I got calmed down, I'm like, damn, Blake is the only one that hasn't seen shit. Like everybody's killed a buck, and Blake hasn't seen a deer yet. And I'm starting to feel bad, you know. I'm like, because at this point, my next move is get down, get the deer out, and I'm gonna go drink beer and celebrate because 3 of the 4 have killed a buck. But then I'm starting to feel bad for Blake because he's never been out of state hunting before. You know, and he's like, this is good trash. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He tagged out in Florida this year, and he goes out of state and hasn't seen a deer. So I'm like, yeah. He's probably feeling it. So I'm sitting there, and about 20 minutes goes by, and I'm about to get down. I was trying to time it where I would be making noise in the woods at the same time like Maurice and Carl was. That way we're not messing anything up. Well, I just looked up to where my deer was laying, and it was standing up. And I was like, what the fuck? I thought, God, dude. So I got my rifle back, and I'm clicking safety off, and I'm waiting for it to step out. And it steps out, and it's not my buck. It was actually smelling the buck I killed. He was standing directly over it. And when it stepped out, I seen 4 on one side. I was like, shit, that's a 7 or 8 point. So I click my safety back on. I just watch him, and he walks directly up the other ditch line, and he's heading straight to Maurice. So I text him. I said, Maurice, if you're in the stand, get ready. This buck's coming right to you. And he texts back, and I'll give him props for this. And he said, I said, get ready. He's like, I'm gonna bust his ass unless it's going towards Blake. I'm gonna let Blake shoot it. And I was like, you know what, dude? That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Because Maurice hasn't killed many deer. I mean, he kills deer when he hunts, but he hasn't killed many deer. He just hasn't had enough time in the woods. But he was willing to let the deer walk, so Blake could shoot it. So I thought that was cool. And a couple minutes
end up walking by Maurice.
No, Maurice never seen the deer.
Yeah.
I mean, at this point, I don't know what's going on. You know, I just know the deer's like, if he just walks that creek all the way up to the top, he's going to walk 15 yards from Maurice. That's all I know. And he was headed that way. So, and the way the way I'm facing, so the way I'm facing is basically to my left is straight uphill to Maurice, to my right straight downhill to the creek. The creek runs like parallel to the way I'm facing. The creek's down to my right. Blake's behind me probably 400, 500 yards. That's how we're laid out. And so this deer walks from my right to my left, straight uphill towards Maurice.
Mm.
So I pull my phone out. I'm like talking to the camera, and I'm like, all right, this is what's going on. I shot a buck. I'm for the first time on camera. I'm still kind of shooken. I just seen a buck, smell my deer, and is walking up there to Maurice, and while I'm recording, you hear boom, and I'm like, well, Maurice got him. Maurice got him, and I turn the camera off, and I'm waiting, and then I see a text from Maurice. I'm like, here it is. Maurice got him, and I open it up, and then Maurice said Blake got him, and I'm like, get the fuck out of here. And then Blake text back, said, he's down, boys. And at that point right there, nothing fucking mattered other than all 4 of us killed. We did what we set out to do. And I was like, holy shit. So we're like, what is it, dude? He's like, it looks like a 7 or 8 point. And I immediately was like, that's probably the same deer that just walked by me.
Mm-hmm.
That Maurice said he would let walk for Blake to shoot it, but I'm doing the math in my head, like as this land's laid out, that's what I was saying earlier, that these deer could still get by you, because that deer was heading the total opposite way of Blake and got to Blake within 40 minutes, which is a pretty timely manner, being that it was 400, 500 yards away, and he was walking the opposite way. So
Yeah.
somehow or another, between Maurice and I, this deer did a complete 90 to 180 degree, circled back around me to the creek bottom, and walked directly down the creek to Blake, all within 40 to 45 minutes. So he had to have traveled upwards to 600 to 700 yards in that time. And Maurice never seen that deer. So now Blake had shot. So I got a buck down. Blake's got a buck down. Maurice killed one the night before, and Carl killed one 3 days before. And now everybody's killed. Me and Blake can't shoot another deer, so it's like, okay, it's time to get down. But I don't want to mess. I don't want to mess Maurice's hunt up, because he's not too far from me, and the deer are traveling my way to his way, and I don't know what to do. So I kind of sit there and I'm like, what do we do? What do we do? And at that time, I hear footsteps, and I turn around, and there's the deer walking straight to me with his head down, and I see he's got horns, and I'm like, fuck, dude, I can't, like, every time I'm about to get down, there's more bucks coming in here. It's crazy. Well, this deer comes, he walks right under my stand, he starts feeding, like I could spit on him. So I pull my phone out, I'm recording him. Oh yeah, for everybody that doesn't know, I didn't have a camera arm. My camera arm's at Stevens. The camera arm I was going to use that he had for me was broken. So I was like, I'm filming with my phone this week. The phone holder that I have that I would record with broke like 2 days into the trip. So this trip pretty much you just got
one for the
B-roll off
boys.
this.
One for the boys.
It's
the
always
exact
good.
same as your last Alabama trip.
Yeah.
The exact same thing.
Yeah, pretty much. So, and even if I did have a camera set up, I don't even know if I'd have been able to record this hunt or not. Maybe I could have got lucky and started filming and filmed. If it was the spike that was the big buck, I wouldn't have been able to get it. But being that the bigger buck was behind them, I might have got lucky. But long story short, I didn't get no footage of the actual shots or whatever. But so I'm about to get down. This deer comes out, and I'm watching him for 30 minutes. And as soon as this deer gets out of range, I'm like, I've got to
How
get
big
down,
was this deer?
It was a 5 point, but he had heavy horns. He was tight racked, and he was very, very tall. He was like a huge, like big ass 5 point. Like,
Yeah.
And the deer did the same thing. He kind of walked down, come around, smelled my buck again, like just like the 8 point did, and walked straight uphill to Maurice. And I texted Maurice and said, get ready, there's another buck coming. And as soon as that deer got out of sight, I waited like 5 minutes, and I was like, all right, I got to get down before a big buck comes in here. And I start kicking my ass. You know what I mean? So I get down, pack my climber up, and I'm walking over toward my deer, and I'm filming. I get up there, dude, and when I get up to the deer, like before I even get to it, I can smell the deer. I can just smell a ruddy, old, burly, musky, fucking just huge deer. I could already tell, like all I could see was his neck, and his neck was bigger around than like a 16-pound bowling ball. Like he's
Mm-hmm.
and then I get up and just massive deer, massive. And I texted. I can't send pictures to nobody. I don't have no service. I'm texting people, but like, hey, I got a good buck down. He's a tank. Like his horns aren't like huge, but they're heavy. They're real heavy horns. You can tell this is a mature deer. I'm excited. I'm stoked. It's definitely my second biggest buck as far as body wise and age. It's by far the oldest deer I've ever killed. I know that for a fact. The oldest deer I've ever killed.
Yeah.
But as far as horns, maybe not. But just maturity, he's definitely the most mature deer I've ever killed. And I'm taking pictures or whatever, and I go out to the truck. Or I go out to where Blake dropped me off. By that time, Blake's pulling up. So we go out and we're making up a game plan. Like, man, I don't really want to go in here and create too much ruckus because there's about 30, 45 minutes till dark. But we decided to get the game cart and slip in there because it's kind of a quiet walk. So we slipped in there and we got my deer out, and then we went out to the truck and we was waiting on Maurice and Carl. So we had the deer propped up on the tailgate, and I had told, because we had thought that Maurice's buck was a big deer, and it was. But I was like, I think I got you beat. And they're like, I don't know, man. Blah, 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 blah. I'm like, oh, I think I got you beat. So Maurice comes out, and so Maurice ended up seeing a buck. He's seen a quick glimpse of it. He said it was through some thick stuff, and he just seen the beams. He said he don't think it was the same deer I was explaining as far as that 5-point, because it wasn't. He said it wasn't that big, and this 5-point had main beams that were probably 18 to 20 inches.
Here.
So he comes up and looks at my deer, and he immediately, his jaw just dropped, and he's like, "Yep, I think you got me beat." Like I mean, his hams were just wide, bro. They were wider than my shoulders. Like
No, the picture.
huge.
I mean, just the picture of it, the mass and the antlers, and just the look at the deer. I'm like, that is a nice old mature buck with some thick ass antlers. And what was he point wise? Was he?
So he had he had 2 points on his left side, and he had basically he's a mainframe 5-point with a 1-inch brow and a 3-inch kicker off his right, the base of his right main beam.
Let me bring up the picture so I can see it real quick. I'll post that whenever it comes to it, but I just want to see it here.
His right main beam was the base measurement of his right main beam was 6.5 inches,
Yeah, he's thick.
and then the other one was 4.5.
What time did you get down to look at him?
Had to been 4:45, somewhere in there.
Yeah, there he is right there. I mean,
Oh yeah. See, I mean, he's got fat antlers, big old head. He's got that. What do they call that nose? The
it's like
I
a
don't
cow
know,
nose, bro. Like
a European type nose.
yeah,
Like,
it's like
he's
it looks like a damn water buffalo.
yeah.
Big boy. Yeah, he's a big buck. Big buck.
Some bucks have ground shrinkage. This one did not. He had like he didn't. He was actually way bigger than I thought he was.
Yeah. And then in the end too, I
So
mean, he didn't do himself any justice running through the woods yelling douche like he did.
yeah.
You
He
think
gave
with an older
himself
buck
up.
like that, they would know.
Yeah, they would whisper it, or at least.
That Alabama education. You roll tide. Sorry.
So me and Blake decided before it gets dark, we just need to go in there and get this deer because it's pretty quiet. So we go in there and we get the deer out. We're waiting on Maurice. He sees it. We wait on Carl. He comes out. He sees it. Everybody's like dapping each other up because it felt like it literally was like there was so much pressure on me and Blake just 5 days doesn't seem like a long time until you're literally in the woods all 5 of them days from sun up to sundown. And
Mhm.
it's really draining both physically and emotionally.
Yeah.
I'm physically drained after like 3 days. Like when your alarm goes off, you're literally laying in bed, like trying to make up an excuse to that you can justify sleeping in. And it's just,
Yeah. 100%,
and
bro.
normally I do it. Normally there's one day where I shit the bed and I don't go. But
Yeah. You're like, oh, well, today I just want to scout in the morning. No, you don't.
yes, well, it didn't work, and I just nutted up and hunted every day. But um, we so when this happened, everybody finally conjoined there. Everybody's like giving each other hugs, like dapping up, high fives. It was just it was a sense of relief. It
Mhm.
was a feeling like I've been on a bunch of hunting trips with a group of buddies, and never has it ever been 100% like this.
Yeah, dude.
So
100% kill rate.
for 4 people to go, 4 people to kill, and it took every minute of every day to make it happen, and constant adjustments and persistence and a mindset that, yeah, I don't feel, I don't feel confident, but I still gotta keep going type. You know what I mean? You gotta look forward. You gotta get over the last. It's just like anything that you're passionate about. Baseball, you walk this guy, but there's another guy coming up. You gotta just.
Mm-hmm.
It's always about your next move, and we did it. I mean, I went 5.5 days without seeing a deer from the tree stand, but I seen 4 bucks and a doe within an hour of my last sit. It's like you never know when that shit's gonna happen.
Yeah.
And Blake's part, Blake only seen one deer. Blake was only in the stand an hour and a half on his last sit, and boom,
Yeah. And shot
a
it.
buck comes out. And when I walked up to that deer, it was 100% the deer I seen. That
Yeah.
that 7 or 8 point was that deer. I don't know how it got over there or whatever, but it did. Um, so that night when we were talking, the biggest difference is not hunting the transitional type scrapes, but
Mm-hmm.
you're hunting open wood scrapes. I feel like the open wood scrapes are just, it's just because there's a high concentrated amount of deer in that area at that point, that they're scraping just everywhere, rather than a travel corridor or a fire lane or breaking your terrain type scrape, where, or a field edge scrape, where that's just how deer travel. Yeah, you might have a first scrape there, but when's it going to come back and check it? You know what I mean? Like he might be traveling 600 yards and hit this scrape 300 yards into it, and within 10 minutes he's 300 yards away.
Well, look at you
Like
hit it
there's
on the head. Travel.
Yeah,
And what is it?
exactly.
What is it? The time you have no idea when they find it the best time to travel those fire lanes and those corridors.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? They might know, they might feel the pressure of whatever it is. And we both know that when it comes to the rut, when you're in the peak of the rut, they travel in the day as much as they do in the night.
Yeah.
That's what they do. But when are they traveling that particular one? Is it at night? Which looks like that's what it was. If both of you were sitting on these heavily scraped areas and didn't see a thing, then you can chum that up as they only do these scrapes at night.
Well, what
As
blew
you
my
tilt
mind,
into the
Steven,
woods, and when you tilt into the woods a little bit, you kind of, they're not bedding up against a fire trail. They're going to be bedding more into your timber, and they're going to be bedding more off these easy access places where your scrapes are going to be hit more because they're going to be there more.
yeah.
I guess
So
that's a Barney way to put it, but
no, yeah, I mean it makes sense. But what was blowing my mind is we had 3 cameras on this travel corridor and never
yeah.
got a picture of a deer. So it's like
Mm-hmm.
they're not traveling it when we're there. They're not traveling it the 3 days that we had cameras up there either
Yeah.
at night. So, like I said, my only theory was that sign was laid down during the weekend when the helicopters weren't flying. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm
Yeah,
right.
maybe,
I don't know.
maybe.
I know they're used to that, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. There was just And the 3 days I gathered, that was the only reason that they wouldn't walk through there at some point. There was just too much sign. It was unbelievable. But yeah, if you're finding yourself in a bind, and I them open timbered scrapes seem to be the common denominator of what to hone in on. Like
Yeah.
if you're seeing scrapes on a road or a field edge, yeah, that's cool. And I'm not saying you can't hunt them and kill deer, but more or less, if they're not traveling, if they're not wanting to go from this point to this point at that time,
Mm-hmm.
that deer.
Yeah.
Rather than an open timber scrape, if there's 20 scrapes that you can see in a 100-yard area and just open timber, that's just telling you that there's no particular way for them that they have to go. They're going every which way. There's just a higher concentration of deer, and you have a better opportunity or a better chance at seeing them. And
And a
that's
lot of the
just what we
times too,
gathered.
scrapes are mostly pre-rut activity anyways.
It is.
So just
And
because the amount of scrapes are there and say you're at your peak doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to hit it. Plus your more mature bucks are going to hit scrapes way less than your younger bucks. Your younger bucks they're sniffing out. They're like, they got the reins pulled off them now. They're ready to go. Those mature bucks, they don't hit scrapes that much. That's
yeah,
a fact too.
the studies show that like only 25% of the bucks that hit these scrapes are 3.5 and
I think
older.
it's over. I was gonna say, I believe it's over 3. Yeah.
And which the only reason I hone in on scrapes is because
It's
there's a
buck
buck been
activity.
there.
Yeah,
You
that's
know
it.
that the buck's been there.
Yeah.
And when you have, that's why like 1 doesn't appeal me, 2 doesn't really appeal me. But when you step up on this ridge and you can stand at one and you can count 6 or 7 or 8 or 10 from that one scrape, there's something fucking going on at that point. It goes from yeah, there's a scrape and the buck's been here to there's a fucking bunch of scrapes and there's a bunch of bucks have been here and there's a
Mm-hmm.
reason for it. When
Mm-hmm.
I see that, I immediately go, there's a hot doe. There's a hot doe somewhere
Yeah.
in here, and there's multiple bucks in here trying to mark their territory. And you can look around, dude. There's rake trees everywhere. There's
Yeah.
rubs,
Yeah.
rubs, rubs, rubs. So, and
You
Maurice
find
just killed a
you find
deer.
those rubs with the scrapes, bro. I mean, you got
It's
no reason to go anywhere else.
there's a
Right
hot
there.
there's a hot doe. There's a hot doe. Period.
Mm-hmm.
And
I bet you in 100 to 150 yards in every direction, you're gonna start finding shit too.
oh, there was shit everywhere.
Yeah. So all right, they're where they feed is right around here. Because
Yep.
just like human beings, bro, if I eat Taco Bell within a half hour, I'm gonna have to evacuate it. Deer are gonna do the same. As soon as they eat, bro, they got to evacuate it too. So that's why when you see shit, you also know, all right, well, I'm probably near where they feed, and then now I know their bedding is probably not that far from here either.
Right.
That's how I look at it. Again, I do a lot of Barney. How to explain this the Barney way? Not to say that you need it. That's the only way I like explaining it, because usually when I talk to people about hunting, they don't know about hunting, so I gotta explain it to them like that. God forbid I say the word estrus to someone that doesn't hunt, and they're like, "It's an odd name for a deer." So yeah, well,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Well, that's like a medieval name.
yeah, estrus chlamydia. It's a beautiful name.
But yeah, there's you know the pretty areas that we were hunting, it was there, the sign wasn't there. And
Mm-hmm.
as I'm sitting there on my 17th or 18th hour in this tree, I start feeling like an idiot every minute, that more and more like an idiot every minute that goes by. And I ask myself, why did I even sit here to begin with? And the reason why is, it's like, if you look at it geographically, if a buck was to chase a doe, if I was a doe, I would follow this and I would do this. So I was hunting expecting there to be a hot doe there,
Mm-hmm.
rather than hunting because the sign's telling me that there's a hot doe there. So in them pretty areas, if there was a hot doe there, the sign would have been just as significant as where I did find where there was a hot doe. So
Yeah.
I believe next year we're learning. So should help people out that hunt, mid hill country or ridges and this type of terrain. Don't waste your time. Like I was telling the guys, like after that day 3 or day 4, whenever we went and scouted that area, I said, I don't care if I sit in a tree again to this trip. I'm not going to get in a tree stand and I'm not going to waste another sit until I find the sign telling me I need to sit there.
Mm-hmm.
And when
You
we
done
got
did
into
it.
that, when we got into that block, I knew we had found it. And it was just the right adjustment away from capitalizing.
Well, I'll tell you
And
this, Nate.
three of us killed a buck in that block within 24 hours.
I hope you dropped your pins so you know where to go for next year.
I'm going right to that tree if it's as long as the sign says to sit there.
Yeah. I have no reason to not be joining you next year. So I will join you next year. I know I say it a lot, but a lot
Shit.
happens. So
Okay.
yep. So I won't have anything holding me up. Work, I can take off work or whatever. There'll be nothing in my future holding me up from March 23rd until the rest of my life. So, well, actually, her name is
Yeah, that's
Stephanie Diane Marshall, but in the end, she'll forgive me.
AKA sea bass.
Mm-hmm.
There's a few things I want to touch to on this before we leave and get off of here. One,
I've got about 7 minutes, so touch away.
one is how was the Bobcat reaction?
She told, I don't know if she directed it towards me or to Peyton. She said, "Y'all are stupid." And I took that as, hell yeah, we got her.
So I've had a Bobcat mounted here that my dad shot with his bow in the 90s. And it my niece Steven's daughter came up here a couple weeks ago and she wanted to take it home and they forgot it. So she was up here this weekend and she was like, "Can I take the Bobcat home?" And I was like, "You know what? Yes, you can." I said, "It's going to end up back here. It's not going to stay down there. So, yeah, if you want to take it home, take it home." I said, "If your mom says anything, just tell her I said you can have it and just take it to your room and don't say another word."
Yeah, it'll look great under her Taylor Swift decor.
Yeah, she can have it decorated with heart-shaped glasses and a
Yeah.
blonde wig. But yeah,
It's
so that
front
was,
and center in the living room, bro.
oh, dude, yes,
Right
yes,
under
dude.
one of my bucks, dude. I took everything off one of the end tables there. Put that bitch right on
Next one was in
it.
the
She hasn't
beaver.
even attempted to take it down. The only person that keeps taking it down is Hunter, the 3-year-old.
Yeah,
He keeps taking it down to lay it on the couch and pet it.
that's funny.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Stupid.
that was one thing, and there was something else. And I don't know if I'm gonna remember right now because I'm pretty shitty at that.
Well, they went up there to watch you in your alumni baseball game, and you ended up winning the home run derby. You gotta love that. Way to go out there
Oh
and
yeah,
go up.
that was pretty cool, man. I hadn't swung like I played softball, but I haven't actually hit a baseball in probably 8 to 10 years.
It
Like I
wasn't
got
the
the
hitting
bat.
of a baseball that I was concerned with. I was watching videos of you running, and I said,
Oh,
"Oh,
I
I
still
know
got it,
my
bro.
boy hasn't ran in a long time, bro. You're turning third a little wide." And I said, "Oh boy." I said
Oh,
he
you see me
hasn't
put
he
my
hasn't
head down
ran over
though?
4 mile an hour in 15 years, guaranteed.
Oh yeah, but you see me put my head down and start digging though.
Come on, come on.
I come around that corner hot and heavy.
Yeah,
But we won our alumni game 17-4,
against
and
two.
before the uh, so the way they set it up, it was whatever year you graduated, it was even against the odd. And I was on the even team, but the even team had twice as many people as the odd team, and they didn't have enough people. And somehow or another, I got switched from the even team to the odd team,
Mm.
along with like 2 or 3 other guys.
What year is your
And I had
graduation? Is it 14 or 12?
12, 12. Yeah. So I ended up playing second base um, as a left-hander with a first baseman. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's not
Um,
how that's supposed to go.
almost turned two twice. It was pretty cool. Didn't have no errors in the field, but I went 3 for 4 in the game with 2 singles and a double. And before that, before the game, we decided to do a home run derby, and I think 7 or 8 people participated. And the coach was like, "You're only going to get 5 swings. You get 1 practice swing and then 5 swings, not out swings." And I was like, "Nobody here is even going to hit a home run. like that's that's hard." And I went up there, and my first practice swing, I kind of popped up to short center. My second swing, which was my first swing that counted, I hit the right center, 1 hop the fence. My third swing, I hit it about 320 feet over the right field fence. My fourth swing, I hit to right center, probably 360. And then I hit another fly ball to right field, and then I popped out the second. So I hit two of my 5 swings that counted were home runs back to back. The next guy that came up hit 1, and that was it. So out of 7 or 8 people,
Louses.
there was 3 home runs hit. I hit 2 of them. Brought home the crown. Got a free hot dog and a free Dixie County baseball hat.
You didn't tell me you got a free hot dog, my man.
Yeah.
I love that hot dog.
Yeah, and the principal of the school came up to me afterwards and gave me the new baseball hats from this year. She gave me one and said, "This is for winning." And I was like, "Oh, thank you, Miss Balmer."
Yeah, thanks.
You know.
You single or?
Well,
Let's take
she
this
was
to the
like
guidance office.
She was like 60 years old when I was in 7th grade. I don't even know how old she is now, but
Oh, so you discriminate against her?
no, I just
Yeah, they all have needs. They all have needs.
But
Well,
yeah,
damn. That was pretty sweet.
So my hunting season's pretty much over. It sounds like yours is pretty much over. There's
I might try and get out there
one
at least one more time. The goal is 2, but 1 is probably what I'll be able to make it. I mean, the 18th of February is it. So when this goes to air, the hunt season might be over. Let's see. Let me just look here. No. We'll still have by the time this is seen. So anyways, yeah, I'll hopefully get out there at least one more time. So
well, there's enough stuff out there that you should probably sit twice, and then the first sit you can bring out like the saddle equipment, and then the next time you sit you can bring out that lock on from back.
Yeah. Start taking everything out. Yeah. But all right. Well, that was a hell of a story. I appreciate you. Thanks for letting me put it into 2 parts. So again, everyone, if you like what you've heard, follow, subscribe on whatever platform you're listening on, whichever one, whether it be Apple, Google, Spotify. Send it to your buddies, send it to your friends, let them hear it. Everybody wants to hear this kind of stuff. Let them hear it, man. And then also check us out on all social media, whether it be Outside Stuff Podcast or Blue Cord Outdoors. You can check us out. We're on all of it. Plus also, we've got 3 new videos coming out. We recorded 2 episodes, but this one's coming out. So if you're listening to this now, then you're getting episode 5, which is Hillsborough Hoss. Episode 4 would have came out last week, which was opening day of Zone C. So check these videos out and keep supporting. We really do appreciate it. Nate, you got anything else real quick?
Just to recap, I guess, of the season. You didn't really.
Oh, we'll do it. We'll do an end of the year. We'll do an end of the season recap. Come the end of my season, we'll dive into the do's and don'ts and the woos and the woes.
Dive into some turkey hunting.
How about it? God dang, it's right around the corner. Just when the old lady thought I was done. But appreciate all y'all. Nate, thanks for coming on. Peace out, Girl Scouts, and we'll see y'all on the next one.
Later.
There it is.
Hey,
how about
it? Baby.
Peace out, Girl Scouts.
Let's go.